Perhaps to the European way of thinking, you could say that the pyramid is hidden, yet it's not, because it's in sight of everyone who understands what they're looking for.
And to really understand it, you have to know on which day to see it, and even at what time of that day. And when Fernando took Bill to the right place on the right day, sunrise on the June solstice, Bill saw how the pyramid too confirmed the Incas' obsession with the stars.
As the sun comes up, it first enters into the window, and then as the beam of light spreads, it starts to move up and points like an arrow up the road. And then the next thing that happens is that it enters the ruins of Ollantaytambo above, and the ruins right there in Ollantaytambo are an enormous effigy of the Llama. But in case you thought your imagination was running away with you, the Incas wanted you to know that this was for real, because the only star in the Black Cloud constellation is called the Eye of the Llama, and that's what lights up first here on the June solstice. It's Alpha and Beta Centaurus. It's called the Eyes of the Llama. Oh, I think this is a staggering discovery. A lot of the work that I had to do involved reconstructing the mental world of the Incas from their mythology, and now we have it here on the ground. It's staggering.
And it's not just the June solstice. On the December solstice, the rising sun grazes the other face, 1 meter higher or lower, and this wouldn't happen. And on the equinoxes, it strikes the edge. So all the solar alignments are contained in this one monument. The Inca Empire sprang fully formed out of anarchy. 800 years of civil war had reduced civilization in the Andes into an endless war of all against all. In the early 1400s, the Incas were just one amongst at least 100 clans living in the Andes. They occupied only the village of Cusco and its valley, and were surrounded by enemies.
There was a sort of a systemic warfare that had been going on for centuries, and that each valley was it was sort of valley against valley, and it was said that all the bridges in Peru were cut at the time of Huiracocha Inca. There was also problems with shortages. The population was getting higher and higher. There was deforestation going on. That said in one chronicle that raids were staged only to acquire firewood.
And yet, paradoxically, they burst out of their valley, and in 90 years they built an empire that stretched from Colombia to Chile, as large as the Roman Empire. And Bill had no doubt that what lay behind this sudden burst of creative energy would be astronomy. Part of the Inca genius was that they founded their empire on the oldest idea of Andean civilization, that each clan was descended from a star. And just as the different stars moved together in harmony in the sky, so the peoples of the Andes needed to live together in harmony on Earth. This idea had been forgotten in the mayhem of 800 years of tribal warfare, but resurrected by the Incas.
Because I pursued astronomy from the beginning, I think that I found the royal road to the Inca mind, and I think it's impossible to understand the Incas without understanding the extent to which they pursued the cosmological imagery in the sky.
Based on all his research, and what Fernando Elorrieta had shown him, Bill was in no doubt that for the Incas, the beginning of their empire itself would be written in the stars. And he knew that there'd been a prophecy connected with stars, uttered at the moment the empire was founded by the Inca king Huiracocha Inca. He thought the first clue lay in that prophecy.
When Huiracocha Inca made his prophecy in 1432, he said that After the reign of 5 Incas, the entire empire would be destroyed and its religion laid waste. And I think that you can understand, given the pressure that the Incas were under when he uttered his prophecy. They were about to be invaded by people who said, you know, we're going to dip our lances in your blood. That he could feel that the world was coming to an end, and that the practical circumstances of life that surrounded them and so many other people in the Andes justified making a prophecy like that.
As always with the Incas, Bill was convinced that these events on the ground would be related to events in the sky.
And that led me to see what was going on in the sky in 1432. The situation that Huiracocha Inca prophesied about was a sort of a visual, physical disconnect between the sun and the Milky Way, which, if it was taken literally, would mean that connection with the ancestors would be destroyed. Now, physically, that means nothing to us, but cosmologically, it meant something to the Incas.
To the Incas' way of thinking, the Milky Way was the causeway between the lands of the gods and ancestors, and when the dawn sun no longer rose where the Milky Way crosses the horizon, its rays could no longer throw a visible bridge down to the earth. So the bridge, giving gods and ancestors access to Earth, was broken. What frightened the Incas about losing the bridge to the ancestors was that it paralleled exactly the loss of the bridge to the gods that had happened in 650 AD. And that had coincided with the start of 800 years of civil war. Once again, the signs in the sky matched exactly what was happening on the ground. For a people who believed deeply in the message of the stars, they should have accepted that fate was against them and done nothing. Yet the empire was built. This was the paradox Bill had to solve. And at the heart of the paradox was one man, Pachacuti Inca. It was his vision and willpower that set this epic project in motion. Whereas his father, Huiracocha, chose fatalism and surrender, for some reason, Pachacuti chose life. After 800 years, the diverse peoples of the Andes, just like the stars, were working in harmony again, as their founding myth prescribed.
The most perplexing problem for me was that Pachacuti Inca apparently rejected his father's prophecy and took over the kingdom from him. He even humiliated his father, according to the chronicles. And yet at the same time, he accepted the prophecy. He must have accepted the prophecy because the last Inca, Huayna Capac, died with the prophecy on his lips. It was passed down through the royal family. We know that. So he accepted it and he rejected it.
Here was an empire that should never have been. For a people who believed in prophecy, they should have done nothing. And we know that for the first 7 years of his reign, Pachacuti did indeed do nothing. Then in the 7th year, something important happened. The thing which precipitated the founding of the empire. Once again, Bill felt sure it would be to do